Welcome to another video from explainingcomputers.com. This time I'm going to take a look at this, the Gemini PDA from Planet Computers. And what this is an attempt to reinvent the Palmtop form factor. Because if we go back about 20 years, 30 years even, we had computers like the Atari Portfolio, which I used to use a lot, which I showed you a while back on this channel. And we had computers from Psion like the Psion 3, the Psion 5, the Psion 7. And we had computers like this one from LG, which ran Windows CE in a pretty much pocketable device, but with a decent keyboard. However, over the past 10 years, as we've seen the rise of a netbook and then more of a tablet and a smartphone, small computers with keyboards have, as you know, pretty much disappeared. Well, they have disappeared. And yet there are still people like myself who very much want to use a small device for content creation, particularly text-based content creation, as much as we want to use it for content consumption. And therefore, when I saw in January 2018 that Planet Computers were crowdfunding this thing, the Gemini PDA, I thought, I will back their campaign on Indiegogo. I will take a risk, a chance on Planet Computers. And today, my Gemini PDA has arrived. So let's go and take a closer look. So, here we have the Gemini PDA, and it's rather a stylish box. And if we just bring in a Stanley knife, we can cut the seal on the top so we can get in. Is that there we are? And let's have a look. Ooh, it says hello in all sorts of languages. I quite like that. It opens up like that, and then presumably this is a stylish piece of construction, and there it is straight away. Wow, that is the. Let's push that over there. I was going to look at all the bits inside. No. Let's go straight to the device itself. How does this open up? Oh, it's sealed like. There we are, like that, and that. Oh yes, this feels really nice. This is a metal case, which is very nice. Oh look, it says Gemini PDA down the edge. You probably can't see that with the light. Maybe you can there, but that's rather nice. And can we? Oh yes, this is retro computing restored, isn't it? Look at that, a computer with a proper keyboard. That's fantastic. What else is in the box? Must be a few things, I guess. That's a little tray. This is, how do we get that out? We can't get the tray out, dearie me. Let's go for the tipping action. And probably not quite what they intended. And then elsewise in here we've got, don't know what this is. Let's have a look. This is quick start guide, probably a screen cleaning cloth, some little stickers there. And this I know is a special tool, which I will demonstrate, I'm sure, later. And then finally here we have these, I'm sure, are power supply parts. Let's have a look. Yes, that's clearly a power supply. And I would imagine this is a power supply lead. What do you think? Power supply lead? Oh yes, power supply lead. I've made an incredible mess already, haven't I? But the most important thing is we've got the PDA itself. This looks really nice. 320 grams this weighs. Beautiful metal case. You can tell I'm really impressed with this. And I think it's therefore time for me to stop going, whoa, what an exciting PDA. And we'll have a look in a bit more detail at its specs. The specifications for the Gemini PDA have evolved slightly since it first shipped, but as far as I'm aware, the unit I have here is based on a MediaTek Helio X27 deca-core system on a chip, which features 2 ARM Cortex-A72 cores running at 2.6 GHz, 4 ARM Cortex-A53 cores running at 2 GHz, and a further 4 ARM Cortex-A53 cores running at 1.6 GHz. In addition, the system on a chip also includes an 875 MHz ARM Mali T880 GPU. In terms of memory, there's 4 GB of LPDDR3 RAM and 64 GB of internal flash storage. On the left side of the case, we then find a USB-C port, which you use for charging, and of course you can also use in other circumstances as a USB-C port, and we've got a 3.5mm headphone jack. Apple, please take note of that. Then, on the right side of the machine, we have a second USB-C port, which you can use as OTG if you wish, and you've also got a special button here which can bring up a voice assistant or be used in things like dual booting the machine, as I'll come to a bit later on. If we look at the back of the machine, all we can have here is just that the hinge has got Gemini Planet Computers written on it nice and neatly, and the front of the machine is very, very simple. There's just a hinge. The underside, as you can see, it's completely blank. This is a very stylish, very minimalistic design. Now, on the top, I should note that down here there are some programmable LEDs, 5 programmable colour LEDs. I've experimented with these a bit. There's a utility for changing these. You can do things like the Knight Rider little chasing red LED pattern. You can, I think, program the thing to communicate with spaceships in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This is indeed a PDA which ET could actually use to phone home. If we open the thing up, you'll see it's got a very solid hinge, clicks open and shut very nicely. And if we open the thing up, you'll see it's been powered up and charged and it's running. And it's currently running a Android 7.1, which is the default installed operating system. And the screen here is a multi-touch screen, as you would probably expect. Very much it's a smartphone screen. It's a 5.99 inches and it's a 2160 by 1080. So this is an 18:9 screen, which is a slightly strange ratio. It's a 2:1 screen if we call it that way. Oh, it's turned itself off. Turn itself on again. There we are. We want to have a little look at you. 403 ppi, so a nice high resolution screen. And having played with this for a few hours now, it's a very, very good quality screen. It doesn't appear incredibly well under moving lights, but it really is a very nice display. We've also got integrated microphone here, we've got stereo speakers, we've got a 5 megapixel front facing camera. There isn't a rear facing camera, but you've got that for things like Skype. So if you really want someone to have a phone call with you and to be able to look up your nose as they're doing it, you could use this camera very nicely. And also there's an accelerometer, there's a light sensor, there's a gyro, there's a magnetic sensor, it's got also GPS, and the battery is 4,220 milliamp hours and it's removable. And the battery will give you something like 8 to 10 hours typical use. This all said, the most important thing here is clearly the keyboard, and the keyboard really is very nice indeed. If you're someone who remembers the Psion 5A, you'll think that looks very like a Psion 5A keyboard. That's hardly a surprise because the Gemini PDA was designed by Martin Ridderford, who was the same industrial designer who did the Psion 5. So this really is a Psion 5 keyboard reproduced on a modern computing device. I particularly like the fact it has got, for example, all of the keys on the keyboard. We've got a Shift key, Control key, Function key. We've got full-size cursor hours, at least the same size cursor hours as the other keys here. It's just very nice to have a really, really full keyboard. The only key I've had any slight problems with in my testing of it so far is a spacebar, which isn't quite so good at the end as it is in the middle, but really this keyboard is very good considering the size it has to be. In terms of wireless connectivity, the Gemini PDA actually comes in 2 versions. This is the Wi-Fi only version, which obviously has Wi-Fi, but there's also a Wi-Fi and 4G version, which takes a SIM card and means you can connect this to a cellular data network and also use it as a phone. And if you're thinking, where does the SIM card go? Well, basically, we close the thing down like that, and then we take the magical Gemini cover removal tool, and then very carefully, this actually just slots in here, and you take your life in your hands and do that. There we are, and the cover comes off, and you can get inside, and you can see inside here we've got a space to put in a standard SIM, and you can also inside here install a micro SD card. Final thing I've not mentioned while this thing is sitting here in pieces is the price of the thing. I actually paid $319 by Indiegogo for the Wi-Fi only model. That was $299 for the unit plus $20 for a power supply cable. Not sure I've got that, not sure I needed it, but it meant I paid $319, about £240 for this unit. However, it now costs $499 or £499, yes, the same in pounds and dollars for the Wi-Fi only model, and $599 or £599 for the Wi-Fi and 4G model. So clearly it's a very different price proposition if you buy it now compared to when I bought it as an Indiegogo backer. If we turn our attention to software, the Gemini PDA currently comes pre-installed with Android 7.1, although apparently they're also working now on having Android 8.1 on this device. But if we look at Android 7.1 right now, if we flick it on, pressing the escape button there, we've got the Android desktop. And one of the nice things about this machine is that you've got the planet button here, the function key down here on the keyboard, which if we press that brings up this little launcher. And this launcher is very reminiscent of the launcher that was part of the screen on the Psion 5A. This really is a Psion 5A reimagined for the modern age. And as you can see, I can work with the keyboard, or of course I could work it with the touchscreen. This is a touchscreen device. It's effectively a smartphone with keyboard down the front. But let's go into, say, YouTube by the launcher. You'll see YouTube is there working perfectly well. And maybe go back to a desktop. We can go, for example, back there, and I'll go to, say, Chrome. The browsing experience is quite good on this device, and then we can see Australian computers there. It must be working okay. But the most important thing about this device, of course, is to use text-based applications. We've got the keyboard after all. And you'll see for that, I've got here, for example, Google Docs and Word for Android, and these work very nicely indeed. So we're going to say Google Docs. You'll see I've got access to documents there. Again, I can run it by the keyboard. I don't have to, but it's nice to be able to run things by the keyboard on a device like this. Going to say that document. And if you know Google Docs for Android, you'll know that you have different modes in it. So this is the mode when you can see your text nice and big. Let's type hello into there and put an exclamation mark on the end. Or we could go and run it in the what they call the print layout over there, which gets you more on the screen so you can see a document a little bit more extensively. But as you can see, the opportunity to work on the text-based applications on this device is very good indeed. And potentially it won't even just be in Android, because although at the moment this thing is running Android, you can already get an experimental version of a Linux distro, of Debian, and the idea is you'll be able to dual boot this device to go either into Android or to Debian on the Gemini PDA. So this opens up all kinds of possibilities to have a small device like this, which is capable of being used to run Linux and run Android, and you can keep it in your pocket, size of a smartphone, but of course it's got a full travel keyboard. The Gemini PDA is a very interesting device. It's not perfect, but it does have a very good screen, it's got a very good keyboard, that is indeed the whole point, and there's lots of possibilities to develop it in terms of the software. I haven't tried running Linux on it yet, but the idea of dual booting it to run either Android or Linux on a pocket device with a keyboard, that's a really interesting piece of hardware that for me opens up all kinds of possibilities, and probably for other people as well. Now, in terms of the price, what I paid for it was £240 as an early Indiegogo backer. I think for £240 it's reasonable value. But for the £499 or $499 it's now selling for, that is getting a bit expensive, I think, for what you get at the moment. You can buy a lot of computing power in other form factors for that. But what I hope will happen is that the Gemini PDA will be a trailblazer to bring back the Palmtop form factor. And we'll see in the next few years, hopefully, fingers crossed, other manufacturers bringing out similar sized devices, nice small computers with keyboards, maybe for $250, $200 or less. And that would be a fantastic thing, a great focus again towards content creation, text-based content creation on a small device. Anyway, we will see what happens. That is now it for another video. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here, please press that like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I hope to talk to you again very soon.